Hi everyone, and welcome to the MudBox. I'm your host Pavi, and I'm here with my handsome co-host Trey.
What's good?
Hey, welcome back.
What's good? I'm back, Orlando. I'm here.
How was your trip?
It was straight.
Was it?
Got to hang out with the family. You know what I'm saying? This good family time. I was there a little bit longer than what I expected to be there, but it was cool. It was needed.
Good. I'm good. I actually went on a trip myself to New York recently, and
How was it?
Really?
You were with that one side of the family, huh?
Yeah, I went to that one side of family, the side of family that we talked about, my Puerto Rican side. It was well, she's mixed up too.
Oh, okay.
So
this is when we played Grand Theft Auto with?
No, not that one. No, not that one. That's on my mama's side.
Oh,
but
okay, for sure.
Anywho, let's just jump right into it. So I have a question for you, Trey. Give me 3 Black organizations that you're involved in right now in Orlando. Physically involved.
Not involved in anything with that. I'm more involved with. So what I do is, for some reason, I'm terrible with in-person things. I'm very online, very social online. So, for instance, I am part of the We Buy Black on Instagram. So I actually donated to that cause for the new grocery store that they want to get into. Mm-hmm. There's a girl who's on TikTok who's trying to buy land. This Black girl who's trying to buy land. So I donated to her to buy land. It was like this bunch of acres that she wanted to build for, Black kids and whatever kids go and do like what the white kids be doing, like the farm and all that other stuff, the hike and everything. And so I try to find Black people online and support that way. Mm-hmm. I'm not with any organizations. I'm not really familiar with that because I don't do good with people anyways. I'm an introvert, but that's a terrible excuse. But I still try to affect where I can affect.
So there's nothing physically that you do here in Orlando. All you do is social. You're very social.
I'm on social media, very social, and I try to invest in different people that I see who have good causes online.
Okay, that's okay. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not involved in any organizations currently right now because I couldn't really find anything that was strictly Black. About the Black liberation, about Black family and pro-Black. So for me, I'm having a hard time finding stuff. Now I have found one, but they don't have a chapter here in Orlando.
I had a question.
Yeah.
What was that thing on Instagram that you was a part of? My man was hosting. He said, "Yeah, y'all can come to the brunch if y'all wear, pro-Black T-shirts and stuff."
Oh, that was for the culture event by T Gaines that he did recently this past weekend, where I don't know exactly what was the point. I think it was just a party. I'm not exactly sure.
It was at Ember.
It was just a party, but I don't think it did anything to help promote anything going on in the city to help the community or anything like that. I think it was just strictly for everybody to come together and spread coronavirus.
Yeah, because I was
sorry, T Gaines, but
that's cool. But I thought that was so dope.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dang, I really wish I could go, but not for Corona.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like a good event, but I don't know. The cameraman, it's not on screen, but I know he went. How did you enjoy?
I didn't go.
Oh, you didn't go?
Oh, he didn't go either.
Oh.
So he was just y'all was just used for promotion. That was it.
Promotional, yeah. I mean, other than that, all I knew it was that was what we were there for. But anyway, the whole point of our topic right now is why aren't we getting involved? Why aren't more Black people involved in the Black Lives Matter movements and local organizations here in Orlando? So I just don't want to waste no time. I'll go ahead and bring in our guest today, Andre Henry, who is an organizer. Damn, man, I'm over here talking crazy today. Organizer, co-host of Hope and Hard Pill podcast, writer, musician, and troublemaker. Is that correct? Did I get it right?
That sounds about right.
Sounds about right. Well, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Andre, I want to ask you, since you are an organizer, what are some of the reasons why Black people said they don't want to get involved?
I brought this up honestly because it's a question that I have, and I wanted to hear from you and other folks too about your reasons. But I can tell you from my experience as an organizer, I think there are a couple things. I think in many Black communities, there's a sense of hopelessness. So there's a sense of no matter what we do, it's not going to really make a difference. So, we all got to look out for ourselves and hustle as best as we can so that we can, get the most out of the system as it is. I think there's a lot of folks who just don't believe that their actions can make a difference, and for good reason. They've voted, or they've had the right to vote taken away from them. They've seen people marching, and a lot of non-Black people coming into the neighborhood, saying that they're all about Black Lives Matter, and then in a couple months they disappear. And not to mention, their relationships to local government and local police, and what happens in the family and stuff. So there's a lot of broken trust. So much so that I think that a lot of Black people in America just have trouble trusting anything, including organizations that say that they're about Black liberation, including Black Lives Matter. So I've heard many Black people talk about why they're not involved with Black Lives Matter. Some of that has to do with homophobia in the Black community, transphobia in the Black community. Some of that has to do with some folks appealing to traditional gender roles and not necessarily appreciating like a movement for Black lives that is led by women, or puts women and LGBTQ people or centers their work around Black LGBTQ people and stuff like that. So I've heard some of those reasons being given to as well. But, a part of why I wanted to have this conversation is because as an organizer, I'm surrounded by a lot of people who share the same politics and the same worldview as I do, and who are interested in doing the same kind of work that I do. So that can kind of cloud your judgment in some ways of trying to analyze, your community. So that's why I was interested in having this conversation, because I know that you've expressed that you've not really been involved with Black Lives Matter and whatnot, and I'd love to hear, what you hear too.
Of course. So for me, I like I was saying earlier, for me, I am pro-Black. I'm not perfect pro-Black, but I am pro-Black. What I mean by that is I am pro-Black family. I'm pro-Black liberation. I am pro-Black, everything Black. And so a problem I have with getting a lot of these organizations is there are not enough Black people who are a part of these organizations. Like I know there's some people who are not Black who are part of this, but in my mind it's like, this isn't your fight. This isn't your struggle. Right now, I don't have time to think about what you got going on. I need from my people. And I feel like a lot of times when I join organizations that have like this mixed group, a lot of our problems get pushed to the side and their issues get pushed up front, and we're fighting for them. They get what they need, and they purposefully don't come back and support us and what we got going on. Right. We're still being abused by police. We're still being abused in government. We're still getting redlining when it comes to housing, when it comes to job advancement. We're still getting blocked in those ways. And so it's hard for me to constantly and believe that this next organization I'm going to be a part of that's run by a white girl named Sarah is really going to be thinking about me. Like, what does Sarah know about my life? What does Sarah know about being a Black woman? She doesn't. All she can do is, I feel for you, but I don't know how you feel. So that's one main reason why I am very hesitant in joining a lot of, especially Black Lives Matter movement. And I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, I think one of the young ladies in there is actually dating a lesbian, and she's dating a woman who is that's not Black. Correct? Am I correct? Am I correct in that? I don't know. I think so.
I actually know Black Lives Matter is run by a woman.
Right.
Women. I don't know.
I think details. One of them is. And again, it's like, and for me, and my mindset is, I don't know. I mean, like I always say, you can't talk Black and sleep white. Why do you have this person next to you that's supposed to be supporting you in your liberation for Black people, but at the same time, you ain't even dating somebody who's Black, even if she's lesbian. Like, I don't believe shit that you're saying. I don't like, you can go about your business. Like, I'll do my own stuff. That's my reason. I don't know if Trey has that same reason why, but then that's
me is just not being educated enough, if I'm being honest, about I haven't looked it up. If you want to be honest, I just haven't looked it up. I am very for much the liberation of Black people. I do care about us. I do get hurt when I see the things that I see, but I spend more of my time trying to figure out where I can where can I put my foot down? Where can I put my foot in to help out? And so, like I told you earlier, what I do is I try to support Black people when I see it online. When you're doing a clothing brand, when you're doing this, when you're doing that, I'm just trying to show like I'm here. I'm not putting my money towards something else that, you know what I'm saying, like it doesn't support Black people. I take my money. For instance, H&M, when they did that sponsorship for that, when they put the Black kid in a monkey shirt, they lost my money instantly. I don't shop there anymore.
Right.
So I take my money away from places that don't work for me, and I put my money in places that affect my people. So yeah, maybe I could do a lot better job at educating myself and finding more organizations, but I am still trying to implement ways where, because money is power, putting my money in places to advance other Black people. And I think that sometimes we get so selfish and so greedy with money that we don't take the time to give. And that's why Asians and Indians and Spanish people, that's why they grow in their own area, because they reinvest in each other. And so I'm like, well, let's reinvest in each other. Like I know that we can keep yelling and talking and this, that, and the fourth, but until we invest back into the community, we're not going to see growth anyways, because money's circulating everywhere else but in our community. So I choose to put my money in places that affect our people and not in places where it doesn't.
Right. I agree. Question for you, Andre. Recently I was reading an article and it was talking about the Black Lives Matter and their funding. So I didn't know that they are like a part of a 501c3. They're not actually a 501c3. So when you do donations to them, it goes to a third party, and before it gets back to the Black Lives Matter organizers or program, they're the ones who have to delegate it. So could you explain, do you know anything like how is that money separated and where that money goes to when you're organizing?
Yeah, I couldn't speak to that because so the way that Black Lives Matter as a movement is set up is that, and this is what I hear a lot of people doing too, like they're doing this thing where they say, I agree with the sentiment, but not the organization. So Black Lives Matter is more than an organization. Ultimately, it's what you call a meta brand, which means that there are a bunch of different organizations, grassroots organizations, formal nonprofit organizations, unofficial groups of people who care, who are doing a lot of organizing under that banner. They don't report to anyone, right? Because it's a decentralized movement. Then you do have a Black Lives Matter global, organization that does have some kind of relationship with some local chapters. I'm not officially a part of any Black Lives Matter chapter. So I can't say, I have no idea, where money goes, how it's spent, how they, and how they're doing that. What I can say is that, for instance, Black Lives Matter LA, which would be the closest one to where I was living in Los Angeles, I think that they were just getting to the place of building the infrastructure to where they could really continue to grow the movement when George Floyd was killed. And then when George Floyd was murdered, you had this influx of people, an influx of interest, and an influx of money that I don't think they were even ready for. So, when you're organizing for Black liberation, we have to remember that this society is arranged in such a way that we're not supposed to be able to do it well. We're not supposed to be able to have the time or the resources or the interest or the people, right? So, there's a lot. This is an uphill battle for even the largest social movement in the history of the world, which is the Black Lives Matter movement. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm sure that they're working out as far as systems and infrastructure goes.
And I think that's probably another reason why a lot of us who aren't involved are not doing it, because we don't know where this money is going. Like, you can't show me something on paper. Where's my money going to? Where am I sending my money? How do I know my money's getting there? Because so many times in history, it shows you so many times, like, you've gone to Black business and stuff like that, and you find out he over there getting a loan and buying a Lamborghini with the money that he's supposed to be helping buy clothes and uniforms for children that need to go back to school. So, we have this thing in our community where we don't trust each other.
Right. Yeah.
That is something I think needs to we all I need to educate myself more, and also bring myself being better at trusting my own people. Because we don't trust each other. I recently was reading on this Black Awakening movement, and it said why Black people must unite. And it was just talking about, us as Black people, we have a common identity. We are from African descent. But I also was reading, I forgot exactly where it was that I read, but it also talked about, even though we all come from African people, we all come from different types of Blackness, different types of culture of Blackness. And I don't know if you notice, even on Instagram, there's a lot of fight between our community when it comes to culture. Like the African man is different from the Black American man, different from the Caribbean Black man. And we're sitting here fighting each other while everybody else is over here building, putting money pools. Like I know in Mexican culture, they'll put a money pool. I heard they put a money pool together to buy a car so they all can get to work. But then they all use that to build a business. And now they got the construction shit and they're all good Gucci. But we don't do that because we all distrusting each other. Mm-hmm. And we can't get nothing done. And all of us, everybody in those areas have money. Caribbean man got money, got business back in Jamaica. The African man got business in Nigeria. The African American man has business here. But we don't trust each other to pull our money together so we can build something together, even though we're so intelligent to build these businesses out here. So that's another thing why I know for me, like, what I need to do is, of course, we need to start trusting each other. And we don't. And it's really sad. But again, that's because we have allowed certain people to come in there and tell us these lies about each other and these stereotypes that aren't true.
Yeah, one thing that strikes me is that there's not a lot of education out there, especially public education, for how social movements work and how social transformation happens. And this is a journey that I started many years ago because I got tired of watching Black men bleed to death on Facebook Live. And so I said, well, I know that once upon a time there were whites only signs up in restaurants and over water fountains and, libraries and all these other public spaces. And now there aren't anymore because some Black people decided that they were going to organize themselves and to challenge the Jim Crow system. That sent me on a journey of a lot of reading, a lot of studying, course at Harvard, meeting folks who have, toppled dictators in other countries, who have organized nonviolent revolutions. And the stuff that I hear people say about why they don't engage, to me, just sounds like, well, it's a part of this information that they're lacking, that they don't have. And it's not by accident that we don't have this information, because if they taught us in school what it takes to actually realize a democracy and to maintain it, then America would have fixed a bunch of shit a long time ago, right? But the system is set up a certain way because there's a hierarchy that people benefit from and they want to maintain. And so when I hear some of this stuff, like, for instance, if someone says, well, I don't know where the money goes for Black Lives Matter, I'm like, well, you actually don't have to spend any money to participate in the movement for Black lives, right? You don't have to give anybody any money to do that, right? So, and even just the notion that there's kind of like this centralized, cabal of people with ulterior motives, that are running this thing. It's like, if you are part of Black Lives Matter Pasadena, where I lived for many years, you are not getting any kind of commands or orders or anything like that from another Black Lives Matter chapter somewhere in Missouri or something like that, right? Like, social movements don't work that way. They are highly decentralized. It's a bunch of people, millions of people at their best, who are just in their locales trying to address the issues in their neighborhood, right? You don't have to identify as a Marxist to do that. You don't have to, be part of the LGBTQ community to do that or whatever. And I think that a lot of times I hear they just sound like excuses to me, honestly. It's like, at the end of the day, none of us are perfect. None of us agree with everything that everybody else believes in, but that shouldn't prevent us from doing what is the most important thing, which is, breaking down this caste system that continues to pile up Black bodies,
Right. Absolutely. Trey, did you have something? I feel like you have something brewing on your head.
No, I'm just trying to listen and listen to both of you guys and take in information. Like I said, I'm not educated about what's going on as far as how people even make Black Lives Matter move. You just see people, like, you just open the news and you see people in the streets, chanting Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Like, I didn't get a Facebook invite to join the Orlando Black Lives Matter movement.
Right.
So it's not like a situation where, like, I'm myself, I'm just trying to be here and just listen and gain knowledge and figure out how I can do my part. Like I said, the most I do is I see someone online, I give money. I don't think about where my money's going. It's kind of like, it's crazy, but we bring up church. And we're the same way at church that we are with our pastor. We give money to the pastor and we're like, man, we don't know what our pastor about to do. We about to buy a brand new car, brand new all this type of stuff. And you worried about that instead of the mindset of the purpose of tithing is to give for however you believe back to God, your 10%.
Right.
So my thing is the same way I gave to Be Buy Black to open that grocery store for healthy food for Black people in Atlanta, I believe. I did that. Now I think about where my money is going to go, what they're going to do with it. I just hope that they took my money and that they put it in the right place to buy their location and they get started. And then hopefully one day we got Be Buy Black grocery stores everywhere. So in my mind, I try to take my money, give it, and then hope for the best and not think about any of it. So yeah, I'm not really trying to speak too much on situations like this because I don't want to come off as uneducated. And I feel like
I feel the same.
Yeah, because he's bringing up a lot of good information. I just think we just need to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, why aren't we doing what we're supposed to do, and why are we so uneducated?
Trey, I wanna comment on a couple of things that you said tonight because I think that it's really important for people because what I hear you saying is I would be more involved if I had an entry point, if I had some clear action steps and some more information, And I think that's a lot of people. And that's where, like, now people introduce me as an organizer, right? But I stumbled into being an organizer. When I was 7 years old and people asked me what I want to do when I grow up, I didn't say I want to organize people for Black liberation. I stumbled into it. And so I think that there's a lot of people that might watch this show and say, yeah, I would do more if I knew what to do. And so, like, one of the things that I kind of lament is that, I speak all over the country. I got people following me all over the world that listen to what I have to say about social transformation and social change. And about 50% of those people are non-Black, And so when I go around and I talk to people about, the stuff that I've learned and all that kind of thing, the thing that I want more than anything else is to be doing this amongst Black people and seeing them feel as encouraged and as hopeful as I see some of these other groups of people are when I tell them about, some of these principles of social change. So I just want to share some right now based on what you said tonight. There's one thing that we have to understand in our society about power, right? Because it's a huge misconception. People think of power as like a fixed object, like this candle here, right? And if you're holding this object, then that means that you get to tell people what to do, right? Or you get to accomplish whatever it is that you want to see in this society. But power don't work like that. Power is it's pervasive, right? It's something that permeates all of society. And usually to do this, I have people play Simon Says. So I have whole groups of people I be playing Simon Says with them, and I give them a couple of things that Simon says to do. And then I tell everybody, Simon says, pull down your pants. And then everybody just start laughing because ain't nobody gonna pull down their pants, right? And I say, okay, well, let's talk about it because this is how power actually works. So everyone in this game thinks that Simon is the one who is holding the power until Simon says, pull down your pants. And then the game stops working because everybody decided collectively that they're not gonna do that. They're gonna do something else. That's the way power actually works in our society. And when we start understanding that power comes from below, it moves to our elected officials and presidents and CEOs and all that kind of stuff. Then we start getting into understanding how we can actually break down this system. So what you said, Trey, is that you individually, you donate to Black businesses and stuff like that, right? Or when you saw that ad at H&M, you decided as an individual that you weren't going to buy from them anymore. That's great, and that's you standing on your values. Now, imagine if you organize 50,000 people to stop buying from H&M, right? Now you have a whole nother situation on your hands because you've got the numbers to make that protest meaningful to that company. Now for H&M, 50,000 people not buying stuff from them, losing 50,000 customers may not be that big of a number. But you can organize, 300,000 people, 500,000 people, 1 million people, right? The power is in our collective action to say, okay, we're not going along with the status quo anymore. We want to do something else. And that's exactly what we saw in the civil rights movement. When all those people say, okay, well, y'all want to treat us like shit on these buses, we're not going to ride your buses no more. And they also organized a carpool for themselves so that they could get people to work. And they organized a way to replace people's shoes when they wore out. That's the people, ordinary people, organizing themselves for the kind of world that they want to live in. We got to learn how to do that again. And I think that's where we come back to what you were talking about, Pavi, about trust, right? It's like, I hear people making all kinds of excuses as to why they're not getting involved. And at the end of the day, y'all don't make these kinds of excuses. When I say y'all, I don't mean you, Pavi. I'm just talking like,
I know. It's fine.
But people don't make all these kinds of excuses. Like you said, Trey, like some of these people still go to church. They don't know where the money's going.
Yeah.
And some of them stay going to church and they do know where the money's going and they know that the money's not going to pay the light bill. Right. So like we already understand what it means to have to work within institutions that deal with some level of corruption. Right. And some of these institutions that have some level of corruption ain't even trying to do right. Right. But we know how to work with them because we have to. Well, what about the people that actually have their heart in the right place, that want to accomplish something good in the world? And they just need some support and they just need some help, So sometimes we asking people, like some people like, well, those women who started Black Lives Matter, they gay. And I ain't trying to be part of no gay movement for Black Lives. And I'm like, my nigga, you go, but do you want to stop fearing the police? You know what I'm saying? So you're going to let something that's actually none of your business, who somebody goes to bed with, stop you from fighting to get the police's knee off of your neck? That don't make any sense to me. Also, on top of that, you better put some respect on some of these Black LGBTQ people's names, because James Baldwin and Bayard Rustin, they helped organize the March on Washington. The reason why some of those whites only signs aren't up in those restaurants anymore are because some gay Black men organized alongside Dr. King and others to help buy your freedom. And these LGBTQ Black people are still in the vanguard of the movement for Black freedom while you're sitting around here wondering about who they go to bed with. So they're still fighting for your life even now. So if they are successful in what they're doing, it's still going to benefit you in the long run. So I'm like, that's just where I'm coming from. It's the collective action. What we need is thousands more people doing what you did, Trey, and deciding they're going to do it together, right? And this kind of happens around this time of year, every year. We like, oh, Black Friday, we go boycott. We're going to buy Black on Black Friday. But we need like some actual planning around that. We need some structure. We need to know, okay, what stores are we boycotting? How long are we boycotting them? The same way that we organized and phone banked to, get people to vote for Joe Biden so that we didn't have this white nationalist aspiring dictator take another term in America. We need to do the same kind of organization around how we can withdraw our support from the systems and structures that cause us harm, and how we can build new systems and structures that help us to flourish.
Right. Trey, you had a question?
Yeah. So my question is, and this is using me as an example. I'm not trying to say let's use the H&M thing for an example. I'm not saying that I didn't care enough, but I'm going to say I didn't care enough, because if you care enough, you put the action in. So for instance, I'm sitting here listening to you speak, and you're saying, like, regular people did these carpools, regular people did certain things to make certain things work. I'm thinking, could have been as easy as I make a Facebook group, or I made a certain group online, just invited a bunch of people, and just, so this is what we're gonna do, this and that. Are you with it? This, that type of thing. And that's how easy it is to create a movement and invite people and have people share it and this, that, and the fourth, and you all do that same type of action together.
I'll say two things.
I made it too complicated, and it was really that simple.
I'll say two things. To get started, yes, it is that simple, right? I'm gonna tell you a little story. This dude in Israel years ago wanted to do the exact same thing. He wanted to see a revolution for economic justice. What he did, though, was he did the thing that a lot of people do that doesn't work, is he went around talking to people about economic justice. Economic justice is an abstraction. That doesn't hit people in the heart. You know what I'm saying? People are thinking about what Netflix show they need to catch up on, how much food they need to buy from the grocery store, all that kind of stuff. But when he started talking about the price of cottage cheese in Israel, he started a Facebook page that, like, he didn't even have time to think of a creative name. So, like, the name of the Facebook page was something like "The price of cottage cheese is too damn high." It was something like that. Thousands of people start joining this Facebook page, and next thing you know, they have a nationwide boycott against all dairy products until those top dairy companies brought the prices down. So yes, in a sense, it is that easy to get started. Just start something and see if it works. And the second thing I want to say is the see if it works part. Organizing people is difficult. You got a lot of egos with people sometimes when you get into this justice movement, because everybody want to be the next Dr. King or Malcolm X or Harriet Tubman or something. So they try to platform themselves. You got a lot of people who are drawn to the movement because they've been hurt by mainstream society. And so they got a lot of wounds and a lot of trauma that they're working through and stuff like that. So as things grow, like, taking care of people can be the challenge. But we do tend to complicate getting started at doing this. You can figure that stuff out. And I want to say also, everyone has a role to play. So I don't think that everybody should listen to this and think, man, like, what am I doing? I'm not a community organizer. Listen, I don't want to be a community organizer. Okay. And that's not everybody's role. You know what I'm saying? So some people's role is to donate to the movement. Some people's role is to do exactly what you're doing right now. You have a show, you have a platform, you're putting good information out there, you're helping people become more informed. Some people's role is to, start a mailing list or a Facebook group or whatever. So a part of that is like, it's what you feel drawn to. But also, everyone listening should know, you don't need a degree to do this work. You don't go to some special community organizing school or something like that, anti-racism school or something. I don't know. You can get started just like that. If you care about something, you say, listen, like, they making these little boys look like monkeys in this ad, and I don't like it. You can get people together, because that's how social change always begins, with a few outraged, organized, ordinary people.
Wow.
Word.
I'm glad. I know, I will say, I have not been doing the most. I mean, I've gone to protests and stuff, but I realized in my protests, I'm like, this ain't gonna do shit. We can protest all damn day, but if this officer still have a job and he's still doing what he does on the street, harassing Black people, me protesting ain't gonna do shit. So what I know I do best is run my damn mouth. So of course, this is my way of giving back and trying to inform people. And especially when I'm bringing my kids on here and trying to educate myself at the same time, I'm bringing people on here that when my guests or my people are watching, they get something out of it, whether it's something a little bit or it's not, I hope that they get something out of it. But again, I hope I'm doing my part. I'm going to keep doing my part. But we're about to close out. But before I close out, I want to give a list of organizations here in Orlando that anybody out there who are watching that are from Orlando, you can get involved in. There's the Central Florida Urban League, the Orange County Black Caucus, the African American Chamber of Commerce, We have BPM, which is Building Powerful Black Minds. I don't know if they have a chapter in Orlando. I know they did. I know the organizer is from Orlando, but I know they are based here, and I think they run out of Jacksonville now. There's Route 7, Orlando Inc., and there's Black Orlando Tech. And of course, there's plenty of more, but I just want to put that list out here. So if anybody you're out there watching, here's some organizations you can get involved in. And of course, I'm going to let Andre go ahead and leave us a little tidbit. So for anybody else out there, if you want to get started, you can maybe talk to Andre, and he can give you some information or direct you in a way that you guys can get started. So Andre, you want to leave us with a little something, please?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for what you mentioned, if people want more information from me, I actually do send out an email every Saturday morning with just a little bit of what I've been, learning over these years from different practitioners of social change, nonviolent struggle, all that kind of thing. So, I'm sure that y'all have a link or something like that. So look me up there. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I always want to leave people with is that truly things don't have to be this way, because, we are the writers of history. Too many people, we have this idea as though history is a story that is just happening to us. We're watching it unfold, not realizing that it's our actions and our decisions as human beings, especially collectively, that is what is writing the story. And we know this implicitly because whenever we hear about something like some atrocity in history, like the Holocaust or something like that, we always be like, well, what were people doing while that was happening? That shows that we know that if we actually were to stand up as a collective, that we know that things would be different. We need to apply that to our lives right now. History is not a story that is happening to us. It is one that we are writing together. And I just want to comment on what you said, Pavi, about protests. I think that a lot of us have this idea about protest, that it's not going to make a difference because that's what we see. We keep going out into the streets and saying we don't like this in public, thinking that, the walls of Jericho are going to fall just because we said that. But that's not how that works. It's good for us to do. We should keep doing it. But here's the key. We have to start thinking about what nonviolence practitioners for years have called the pillars of power. And what that basically is like, if you imagine whatever the social problem is as like the roof of a temple with pillars, like columns, right? So imagine that the roof of of this temple is systemic racism. All of those columns are different institutions that hold up that roof. It's the educational system, it's the media, it's the police and military, it's the judicial system, all that kind of stuff. What we have to do as a people is start identifying which of those pillars are vulnerable to our collective action. That's what they did in the Montgomery bus boycott, was they caused an economic disruption to that business by withdrawing their support. We have to learn how to do the same thing. That's why I say history is not a story that's happening to us. It's one that we're writing together, because if we start doing that and we start putting our collective action, our collective power, our collective pressure against those pressure points, then we have a whole nother story. We're not just walking outside and saying we don't like this in public. We're actually saying, oh, there will be no commerce conducted in this city today until you meet our demands. So I want to leave you with that we all have a role to play in writing history, and collective action is our pen. And no matter what you do, what your gifts and talents are, where your anger leads you or whatever, we need you to get involved, because we need at least 3.5% of the American population to engage and sustain nonviolent struggle until we have the world that we want. And that's been proven by research. 12 million Americans, that's what we need. And we need you to be one of them. So come on.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Andre. I appreciate you so much for that.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You can find Andre at the Andre Henry on Facebook and Instagram. So if you guys ever want to follow him, get some information, definitely check him out. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for checking to, oh God, why am I always tongue-tied at the end of this? You know what? Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, if you want to use this room, you can go to the MudBoxEntertainment.com. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Instagram. You can check our link, and we can get you information on starting your own podcast. So please check us out. All right, y'all have a good week. Good rest of your week, good day, good evening. Remember, stay clean and think 30, you guys. Have a good night.